Hello, my dear warriors. This could easily sound like warriors, especially with my pronunciation. And it's also not that far from the truth because we are battling one crisis after another. If it is a real crisis or not, that's a whole different question. But if you're a dog guardian who worries too much or you feel like you worry too much, this video might be for you. My name is Eva, and I am a canine behavior consultant and also a dog guardian who worries too much. So this video will be heavily influenced by my personal experiences as well as experiences of my clients. And hopefully, some of the things, at least some of the things that will be mentioned in the video, you will find useful, or at least you will feel like you will get some kind of validation, recognition that there are other dog guardians out there facing similar struggles to you. If I got a dime for every time someone told me, "You worry too much. You should not worry. You will change nothing by worrying," I would be so insanely rich. And also saying things like that really helps. It makes a huge difference. It doesn't feel bad at all. I firmly believe that feeling bad about who you are, who your dog is, trying to change that no matter the cost as fast as possible does more harm than good. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean that wanting to change is a bad thing. Not at all. Wanting to do things differently is a crucial part of growth, of change, of progress. But I believe that the change has to come from a place of love, trust, safety in order to bring long lasting change that doesn't cause harm to the well being of our dogs and also ourselves. Because if we force change, what can happen is we can really hurt the individual. This can mean us humans or our dogs. We can feel really bad about ourselves. And all of this can bring a lot of negative consequences, which can make the primary problem, in this case, worrying too much, even worse. And we should really stop striving for perfection. And I know that this has been said many, 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 many times by now, but I think we still don't believe it. It's just something that's said, but not internalized. And even though we say it, we still want to do things right. But I think that there's a huge difference with wanting to do things right and wanting to do things perfectly. Because, firstly, perfection is not attainable. And secondly, do you know how boring our life would be if everyone would do everything perfectly? I don't think we realize how much we are enriching our lives and the lives of others with our imperfections and how many things we learn from that. So yeah, I definitely think we should all embrace our worrying sides and not try to fight it. And and that, in my opinion, doesn't mean that we've settled, that we've given up. It means that we are giving ourselves grace and space to be who we are. And do you know what happens once you do that? You start getting kinder to yourself. And when you start getting kinder, you start seeing the positive sides of worrying too much. And you become mindful about the negative sides. And you're able to see where or when they come up and pause and reflect on it. Is this something I should worry about? Am I just having a bad day and that's why I see things as something I should worry about, and so on? Because you are not so focused on how to get rid of something that's a part of who you are anymore. And you might think that there is no positive side to worrying too much. But based on myself and my clients, I would strongly disagree with that. What I've noticed is that we are usually very good at observing. We are very detail oriented. We are very analytical. We care about what's going on, what will happen. And all of these things are invaluable when it comes to the relationship with our dogs. How to understand them better, how to read situations, and so on. And once we learn what we have to look out for, all of these things that we presumed were our weaknesses suddenly become our strengths. And so these things that once made us worry too much can now help us to not worry too much, or to not worry in situations where we don't need to worry. For example, my dog Balt is a dog reactive dog, and I used to obsess over what is going to happen if we run into an unknown dog on our walks. I would obsess over it after the interaction happened, and I really, really got stuck into this loop of why I did this, why didn't I do that, like, why am I the way I am, blah, blah, blah. But what really helped me was a shift of how I used this reruns that were happening in my head. So what I did was every time we encountered an unknown dog, when we got home, I sat down, I took out my phone or a piece of paper, and I tried to look at the situation as objectively as possible. So I wrote down what happened, what did I do, what I didn't like about the situation, and what could I do differently. And I really, really tried, and it was really hard sometimes, but with practice, it got better, that I wasn't too critical or too unrealistic or too, we are all gonna die, blah, when I was answering the questions, or rather when I was writing down each step. And this was really great exercise for me. And this was after I already started with my canine behavior certification. So this really helped me with looking at the situation objectively. And it really made me feel safer and feel like, oh, I've got a plan for the next time when we run into an unknown dog, what I'm going to try to do instead. That doesn't mean that I did things differently right away. But with time, I did start doing things differently, and I wasn't just like paralyzed with this fear. And I started seeing those situations as a learning opportunity. But this, like what I did, can very easily make someone else obsess over the situations, and it can be really counterproductive. So what I would suggest, like, you know yourself best, so try to find something similar that might help you with not just worrying for the sake of worrying, but to try to calm your mind. The second thing that's been incredibly helpful for me and my clients is better understanding what is going on in the situation and what can I do to not make it worse. And learning about how dogs communicate has been the biggest lifesaver here. Because if you know how the dog is feeling in a certain situation, it's much easier to predict in what direction the situation will go and know also what kind of situations will probably present a challenge for your dog. So, one of the first things that I advise my clients is learn dog language. And calming signals are a great place to start. Hi, Balt. Hee. Calming signals were observed and collected by Turid Rugaas, and they are a communication system basically dogs use when they communicate with each other, when they communicate with us humans, with other animals, and they can have like the same calming signal can have different meanings based on the situation they are used in. So they can be used to communicate that the dog is scared, that they are uncomfortable in situation, that they want to make friends, that they are not a threat, and so on. So context really matters. And examples of calming signals are lip licking, yawning, blinking, turning away, sitting down, curving, and so on and so on. So my advice would be observe, 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 observe your dog, observe other dogs, observe dogs on videos. But beware, once you understand dog communication, you will start seeing things you did not see before. You will see how many dogs don't feel good in situations they are in. So you've been warned. Proceed with caution because it can be very depressing and infuriating. Two sources that are a great place to start, in my opinion. The first one is Turid Rugaas' book called On Talking Terms with Dogs. And the second one is a canine, canine communication. It's not a course. It's a webinar by Barks that you can find here on YouTube. And if I've managed, the link should appear either on the screen, or if that did not work, you can find it in the description of this video. Barks is where I've got my certificate, whatever. And I can't recommend it enough if you are looking to expand your knowledge on dogs and want to understand your dog better. They offer Canine Essentials 101 course that I would really recommend to all dog guardians because, and this is not a sponsored post. No post. Like, shout out. It's not sponsored, what I'm trying to say, but it's really, hi. It really changed my life and the relationship with my dog. And I would wish that experience to happen to every dog guardian. So that's why I'm recommending it. And I've mentioned before that we humans, a lot of times unknowingly, make situations worse by how we react, what we do, what kind of body language we use. So being aware of that is really important in my opinion. For example, dogs really don't like if we come straight at them, come straight into their personal space, invade their personal space, touch them without consent. Our body, like facing the front of our body, facing them directly, bending over them. These are all things dogs. Yeah. It's humbling when you realize how many times you've made your dog feel uncomfortable and not even knowing it. I know I'm not the only one who, once I get new information, new knowledge, I want to incorporate it all at the same time as fast as possible. And then I am asking myself, oh, why I am totally burned out and feel guilty because I did not manage to shift everything overnight. From one dog guardian who does that to another, don't do that. Like, go slow, go at your own pace, go at your dog's pace. Don't overwhelm yourself and your dog, because in reality, you are doing great. Your dog is doing great. You want to do things differently. Like, that's the biggest step you can make. Like, that's the cornerstone of change. You will do things differently at your own time. And this will sound really cliche, but this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. What's even longer than a marathon? Super marathon? Real life? I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there will always be things that you will not know, or things that you will do wrong. Like, mistakes are waiting to be made. And mistakes are amazing teachers, no matter how uncomfortable they are. That is equally terrifying as it is liberating, at least for me, because once I realized that I am doing my best, and that means that I cannot do anything more, it was really freeing for me. One other thing that dog guardians are still made to believe or advised by professionals is that they have to push themselves, push their dogs into situations that are too much for them if they want things to change. And this can be really overwhelming for anyone, especially if by default you worry too much. So, for example, for dogs who are scared of traffic, let's say, the solution that is recommended is expose the dog to traffic as much as possible in order for them to not be scared anymore. That is not only untrue, but it can be really detrimental to you, to your and your dog's well-being, to your relationship. Avoiding situations that are currently, and I emphasize currently, too much for you and your dog is crucial to one day not being too much anymore. And this break, however long you need it to be, offers an opportunity for the brain and the body to decompress, to relax, to not be in a constant state of fight, flight, or freeze. And do you know what happens when your brain and body can decompress? The brain is able to stop and think before reacting. The brain is able to learn. The individual gets more confident and is able to deal with difficult situations much better if and when they arise. As I've mentioned before, Balt is a dog reactive dog. So the advice that we would get in this situation would be to expose him to really close dog contact all the time. And for someone who has been terrified of stepping out to go for a walk, just a thought of that makes me want to throw up. Oh, wow. That would be so freaking stressful. Do you know what I did instead? I identified places and times where and when it was like the chance of us running into an unknown dog in an unpredictable situation were as small as possible, and I changed our walks according to that. So we avoided running into unknown dogs. We still do that. At the same time, I have amazing friends that have dogs and were prepared to go at Balt's and my pace, so that Balt had a dog interactions at a distance that he was comfortable with. At the beginning, that meant 50 meters. I don't know. I'm really bad at figuring out like what the distance is. But it was a huge distance. Like the dogs did not come into close contact. But gradually, both me and Balt started to feel safe. And Balt, as I've mentioned, he started to decompress. His brain was able to think and to learn that not all dog interactions mean that he will be attacked, because he was severely attacked 2 times when he was in the shelter. So that's my guess where his dog reactivity is coming from. And now he has dog friends, like true dog friends, not just random dogs that he meets on the street, because we are still avoiding that as much as possible. But even that interactions, if they happen, are much calmer than they were before. when we step out, I am not constantly thinking, we are all gonna die, what's gonna happen anymore. I enjoy going out for walks with Balt, and I still make sure that I make things easier for us and not harder. And that's why something that seemed impossibly hard once doesn't seem that way anymore. So don't believe people when they say to you that you have to push yourself and your dog in hard situations when one of you is not ready for that. You go at your own pace because you'll both be at peace once you do that. And that is the magical place where true change happens. Change that doesn't cost you or your dog your well being. I really hope you found this video, or at least part of the video, helpful because we are all different as humans and our dogs. I just hope that you can realize that there is another way of how we can be, with our dogs, how we can perceive ourselves, and that we can be kinder to ourselves. And that once we do that, things change unexpectedly, change for the better. I still worry, but it's not so debilitating anymore. So I would really appreciate if you follow my channel, support me in growing this channel of me filming the videos. If you have any questions, my email, my social media is in the description of this video. So please subscribe, and I hope to see you in another video. Have a wonderful day, evening, morning, whatever time you're watching this. Bye.